Hello and welcome. The stone above you weighs more than mountains. Miles of solid rock pressed down with patient, eternal force, creating a darkness so complete that light itself seems to forget its purpose. Below the surface world, beneath the farms and forests, the cities and castles, stretches a realm that defies surface comprehension. The Underdark waits in perpetual midnight, a labyrinth of caverns and tunnels where entire civilizations have risen and fallen without ever glimpsing the sun. You stand at the threshold of this subterranean wilderness, where the rules of the world above hold no meaning, and where creatures that would seem impossible have not only survived, but thrived for countless millennia. The Underdark is not simply a collection of caves. You must understand this fundamental truth before you venture deeper. This is a world unto itself, as complex and varied as the surface lands, with its own, whether patterns of falling stone and rushing underground rivers, its own seasons marked by the migration of purple worms and the spawning cycles of hook horrors, its own nations locked in wars that have lasted longer than most surface empires have existed. The darkness here is absolute, thick enough that you could almost believe it has substance, that you might reach out and feel its texture against your fingertips. Your eyes, so accustomed to the gentle light of day, become useless here, reduced to ornaments in a realm where vision means something entirely different. The air itself tastes different in the deep places. Sometimes it carries the mineral tang of water seeping through limestone, droplets that have traveled for centuries through stone before gathering in pools that have never known wind. Other times, you might detect the acrid bite of fungal spores, released by the massive mushroom forests that tower 30 feet high in certain caverns, their caps glowing with bioluminescent light that casts everything in shades of sickly green and pale blue. The temperature fluctuates wildly, depending on your depth and proximity to the geothermal features that riddle the Underdark. You might walk through passages where your breath mists in the frigid air, then turn a corner into a chamber where heat radiates from pools of water that bubble and steam, heated by volcanic forces deep below. Sound behaves strangely here. In some tunnels, your footsteps echo for what seems like miles, each scrape of boot against stone repeating endlessly until the echoes build into a cacophony that makes it impossible to distinguish which direction threats approach from. In other chambers, the acoustics swallow sound completely, creating pockets of such profound silence that you can hear the blood rushing through your own veins, the mechanical workings of your own body suddenly loud and intrusive. Water dripping from stalactites creates irregular rhythms that, based on reports from surface explorers, can disturb sleep patterns over extended periods, each drop falling precisely when you least expect it, preventing any hope of restful rest. The Underdark is not one realm but three, divided by depth and danger into distinct layers that the denizens below have named according to their distance from the surface world, you begin your understanding with the Underdark, the shallowest region, extending from just beneath the surface down to approximately 3 miles in depth. Here, the boundaries between the world above and the world below remain somewhat permeable. Natural fissures and cave systems connect to the surface, allowing occasional intrusions of surface creatures, lost miners who stumbled into passages they should have sealed, adventurers seeking fortune in forgotten dwarven ruins, or desperate refugees fleeing persecution above. The Underdark sees the most traffic, the most interaction between surface and subterranean societies. In the Underdark, you might encounter creatures that surface dwellers would recognize, even if they find them disturbing. Giant spiders weave their webs across passages, some large enough to trap horses, their venom potent enough to paralyze a grown human within seconds. Troglodytes inhabit tribal communities, their chameleon-like skin allowing them to blend with stone walls, their distinctive stench announcing their presence long before you see them. Grimlocks, the blind humanoids who have adapted to lightless existence, hunt in packs, using their heightened senses of hearing and smell to track prey through winding corridors. Kobolds, those small draconic humanoids, establish warrens in the Underdark, creating elaborate trap systems to defend their territorial claims. The Duergar, those grim gray dwarves, maintain numerous outposts and mining operations in this layer, extracting precious metals and gems that they trade with deeper denizens. Deep gnomes, the Sverfnablin, prefer the Underdark for their settlements, choosing locations far from Drow territories, but close enough to the surface that they can occasionally trade with surface communities. Their city of Blingdenstone once thrived in the Underdark, beneath the silver marches of Faerun, a marvel of engineering that carved beauty from raw stone, until the Drow of Menzoberranzan orchestrated its destruction in the year 1371, Dale Reckoning. The Sverfnablin are master miners and illusionists, using their innate magic to hide their communities behind walls of false stone, or to create illusions of worthless tunnels where their homes actually stand. They have learned to survive in a hostile environment by remaining unnoticed, by blending with the stone they love. Descending deeper, you reach the Underdark, that vast region stretching from approximately 3 miles down to roughly 10 miles beneath the surface. Here, the connection to the surface world becomes tenuous, almost theoretical. Few surface creatures venture this deep voluntarily, and those that do often never return. The Underdark belongs to the true denizens of the deep, those species that have evolved over millennia to thrive in lightless conditions, whose civilizations rival anything the surface world has achieved. The dangers multiply in this middle realm. The predators here have refined their hunting techniques over countless generations, developing abilities that make them nearly unstoppable in their native environment. The Drow establish their greatest cities in the Underdark. Menzoberranzan, that infamous city of spiders, sprawls across a massive cavern in the region beneath the Silver Marches, its influence extending through a network of tunnels and satellite outposts. The Drow have mastered the art of creating beauty in darkness. Their architecture, combining natural stone formations with carved obsidian and jade, all illuminated by the soft glow of permanent magical lights that cast everything in shades of purple and blue. Their society revolves around the worship of Lolt, the Spider Queen, and their entire civilization reflects her chaotic, cruel nature. The Drow understand the Underdark in ways that surface dwellers never could, having spent thousands of years learning its secrets, mapping its passages, and subjugating its creatures. Mind Flayers, those terrifying illithids, establish colonies throughout the Middledark, their presence marked by the psychic screams of their victims and the strange architectural preferences that favor rounded chambers and spiral passages. The illithids prefer to remain hidden, operating from secret strongholds where their elder brains float in massive brine pools, coordinating the actions of their colonies through telepathic communion. The Mind Flayers see all other sentient beings as either food or potential thralls, resources to be harvested or enslaved. Their colonies rarely exceed a few hundred individuals, but each illithid possesses psionic abilities powerful enough to dominate multiple victims simultaneously. Beholders, those xenophobic tyrants, each claim territories in the Middledark, obsessively defending their lairs from all intrusions. A beholder trusts nothing, not even others of its own kind. In fact, beholders reserve their deepest hatred for other beholders, viewing them as imperfect copies, abominations that must be destroyed. Each beholder's lair reflects its paranoid genius, incorporating trapped passages, false chambers designed to lure intruders into killing zones, and loyal minions altered by the beholder's magical gaze to serve without question. The creatures that a beholder enslaves might include goblins altered to have stone-like skin, or kobolds whose scales have taken on metallic properties after exposure to the beholder's transmutation ray. The Middledark contains vast underground seas and lakes, bodies of water that stretch for miles in every direction, their surfaces perfectly still in the absence of wind or tide. Here, the aboleths maintain their ancient cities, those fish-like beings who claim to remember the universe before the gods shaped it into its current form. The aboleths are scholars and manipulators, using their powerful psionic abilities to control other creatures from a distance, building networks of enslaved servants who believe themselves free. An aboleth might spend centuries working toward a goal, patient in a way that only a creature that has lived for millennia can be, content to wait decades for the right moment to act. Descending further still, you enter the Lower Dark, that realm of ultimate darkness beginning at approximately 10 miles down and extending to depths that remain unmapped. The Lower Dark represents the frontier even for Underdark natives, a place of legendary dangers and forgotten civilizations. The heat increases noticeably here. The stone walls, sometimes warm to the touch, heated by the molten rock that flows in vast underground rivers far below. The air grows thick and difficult to breathe, heavy with mineral content, and the strange gases that seep up from the deep earth. The pressure of all that stone above becomes a physical presence, a weight that presses against your body and mind. Very few creatures call the lower dark home, but those that do have achieved a kind of terrible perfection. Purple worms tunnel through solid rock as easily as surface creatures swim through water, their massive bodies radiating heat, their gullets capable of digesting nearly anything organic or mineral. These behemoths can grow to lengths exceeding 80 feet, their passage creating new tunnels that might later serve as highways for smaller creatures. The purple worms are forces of nature more than animals, driven by endless hunger and the instinct to burrow ever deeper. The lower dark hides ruins of civilizations that predate even the elves, crumbling cities built by races whose names have been lost to time. The mind flayers sometimes whisper about their lost empire, suggesting that they once ruled an underground nation that spanned continents, until their thralls rose up and shattered their power. Based on fragmentary evidence and illithid claims, some scholars theorize that these ancient ruins lie in the lower dark, buried beneath newer construction and geological changes. The Drow occasionally mount expeditions into the lower dark, seeking lost artifacts of power or new territory to claim. But these ventures rarely return complete, and those that do bring back stories of things that should not exist, creatures of living shadow and stone that defy categorization. The Underdark extends beneath most of Faerûn, that vast continent on Toril, creating a network of passages and chambers that connect distant surface regions through subterranean routes. You could theoretically walk from the Sword Coast to the distant lands of Thay entirely underground, if you knew the paths and could survive the journey. The major Drow cities maintain this network, treating the Underdark as their domain, but their control remains incomplete. Between the known passages lie countless unmapped regions, caverns that no sentient being has entered in millennia, tunnels that lead to places forgotten, even by the long-lived elves. Certain regions of the Underdark have gained particular notoriety among its denizens. The North Dark, beneath the northern regions of Faerûn, contains the highest concentration of Drow cities, including Menzoberranzan and Ched Nasid. This region sees constant warfare between the Drow houses, their schemes and plots creating a political landscape so complex that surface dwellers could never hope to navigate it. The North Dark also contains significant Duergar presence, particularly around Gracklstugh, that Duergar city of blades and forges, where the Grey Dwarves produce weapons and armor of exceptional quality. The Lower Dark beneath the Shar contains the Sunless Sea, that vast underground ocean where aboleth cities dot the shores, their architecture alien and disturbing to humanoid sensibilities. The Kuo-toa, those fish-like humanoids driven mad by their slavery under the Illithids, maintain numerous settlements around the Sunless Sea, worshipping gods of their own creation, deities that sometimes actually manifest through the power of their collective belief. The Kuo-toa are unpredictable and dangerous, their madness making them impossible to negotiate with rationally. Their weapons coated with poisons derived from underground fungi and cave fish. The Underdark beneath Cormor and the Dalelands connects to the surface through numerous natural and artificial passages. The Drow occasionally raid surface communities through these routes, stealing slaves and supplies before retreating into darkness. The Farim once dominated this region, those floating, worm-like spellcasters whose magical power rivaled that of archmages. But their numbers have diminished over recent centuries due to conflicts with other Underdark powers. The Farim created artificial barriers and magical wards throughout their territory, some of which remain active, creating zones where magic behaves unpredictably or simply fails to function. Far to the east, beneath Thay and Rashimen, the Underdark takes on different characteristics. Here, Illithid influence runs strong, with several major colonies operating in relative secrecy, their plans spanning decades or centuries. The Red Wizards of Thay sometimes delve into the Underdark seeking components for their spells, or attempting to make pacts with powerful creatures below. But these wizards quickly learn that the predators of the deep have their own agendas, their own magical traditions that owe nothing to surface teachings. Navigating the Underdark requires knowledge that surface dwellers lack. The passages twist and branch with maddening complexity, creating three-dimensional mazes where the concepts of north and south lose all meaning. Instead, Underdark natives speak in terms of depth, direction relative to known landmarks, and the approximate distance to major cities or features. A Drow merchant might describe a route as running 12 degrees spinward of Menzoberranzan, descending 3,000 feet over the course of 5 days' travel, passing through territories held by hook horrors and a Myconid colony before reaching the target destination. This system makes no sense to surface cartographers, but it works perfectly for those who have internalized the three-dimensional thinking that Underdark navigation demands. Water represents both life and danger in the Underdark. Underground rivers can flash flood without warning. Ancient magical wards might suddenly release water held back for centuries, or natural geological shifts might redirect waterways through new passages. Many Underdark settlements are built around reliable water sources, as finding drinkable water in the deep earth can prove challenging. Some regions contain vast underground lakes with their own ecosystems, while others suffer from such extreme dryness that humidity approaches zero, creating chambers filled with ancient dust that has never seen moisture. The concept of time becomes fluid in the Underdark's eternal darkness. Without the sun's passage to mark days, without seasons to measure years, the inhabitants develop different relationships with temporal progression. The Drow maintain artificial schedules based on magical timepieces and the requirements of their spider farms and fungal crops. Illithids experience time differently due to their psionic nature, and some accounts suggest they perceive events in ways that transcend simple linear progression. Deep gnomes track time through the growth cycles of the fungi they cultivate, while Duergar measure it through work shifts and the completion of forging projects. You must understand that the Underdark is alive, truly alive, in ways that surface lands cannot match. The stone itself sometimes grows and shifts, not through erosion or weathering, but through processes that resemble organic growth more than geological change. Certain fungi release spores that alter the mineral composition of stone, creating new crystalline formations or hollowing out chambers in solid rock. The Flayers, that strange background radiation of magical energy that permeates certain regions of the Underdark, causes mutations in creatures exposed to it over generations, creating new species or subspecies that exist nowhere else. This, then, is the realm you now enter, a world of absolute darkness and ancient civilizations, of predators so perfectly adapted to their environment that they seem supernatural to surface sensibilities. The Underdark stretches below you, vast and largely unmapped, holding secrets that date back to the earliest days of the world. Your journey into these depths will reveal wonders and horrors in equal measure, will challenge every assumption you hold about civilization and survival. Section 2. The Drow Cities of Eternal Night. The greatest Drow city in all the Underdark rises from the floor of an immense cavern, a metropolis of such dark splendor that even its enemies cannot help but acknowledge its terrible beauty. Menzoberranzan sprawls across 2 miles of cavern floor, its structures reaching upward toward stalactites that hang like stone daggers from a ceiling lost in magical darkness. You approach this city of spiders with both awe and dread, knowing that every stone, every carved surface, every magical light serves the glory of Lolt and the ruthless ambition of her chosen people. The cavern that houses Menzoberranzan stretches approximately 2 miles in length and roughly a half-mile in width, its ceiling soaring to heights that vary between 1,000 and 2,000 feet above the city floor. The Drow have shaped this natural formation over the course of millennia, carving noble houses into the walls themselves, creating mansions that extend deep into solid rock, their true extent hidden from casual observation. The most powerful houses claim the highest positions, their compounds built into the cavern walls at elevations that require magical levitation to reach, a display of status that announces their power to all who enter the city. 8 major noble houses dominate Menzoberranzan's political landscape, their matrons engaged in an endless dance of alliance and betrayal that has continued for thousands of years. House Beener holds the position of first house, its compound occupying the most prestigious location on the eastern wall of the cavern. The Beener compound resembles a small fortress more than a house, with walls of magically strengthened stone rising 30 feet high, topped with writhing sculptures of spiders that serve as both decoration and guardians. Inside these walls stand numerous buildings, including private temples to Lold, barracks for the house's considerable military forces, training academies, and the palatial residence of the matron mother herself. The architecture of Drow cities defies surface aesthetics, combining elements that seem contradictory to untrained eyes. The Drow favor smooth, flowing lines that suggest organic growth rather than deliberate construction. Yet they also incorporate harsh angles and sharp edges that speak to their violent nature. They carve their buildings from the natural stone of the cavern, using magic to shape rock as surface sculptors might shape clay, creating structures that appear to have grown naturally from the cavern floor. The Drow enhance this natural stone with imported materials: obsidian from the Lower Dark's volcanic regions, jade quarried from deposits discovered in their territorial explorations, sheets of spider silk woven so tightly that they become nearly as strong as steel. Every surface in Menzoberranzan serves a purpose beyond mere structure. The Drow cover their walls with intricate carvings depicting the glory of Lold, scenes of conquest and sacrifice, and the genealogies of noble houses stretching back hundreds of generations. These carvings glow with permanent magical enchantments, casting the city in shades of purple, blue, and deep crimson, creating an atmosphere that is simultaneously beautiful and deeply unsettling. The magical lights pulse gently, mimicking the rhythm of a heartbeat, a subtle effect that most visitors never consciously notice, but that creates a sense of unease that builds over time. The city spreads outward from the noble houses in concentric rings of decreasing prestige and increasing poverty. The merchant district occupies the cavern floor closest to the noble compounds, where Drow traders offer goods from across the Underdark and beyond. Here you might find rare fungi harvested from the Lower Dark, weapons forged by Duergar smiths, slaves captured from surface raids, magical components taken from defeated enemies, and exotic creatures bred for war or pleasure. The merchants conduct their business with calculated courtesy, always aware that a single misstep might offend a noble house and result in their deaths or enslavement. Beyond the merchant district sprawl the residential areas where lesser Drow make their homes. These structures lack the grandeur of noble compounds, built from more common stone and smaller in scale, but they still reflect Drow sensibilities. Even the poorest Drow house contains at least one small shrine to Lold, maintained with whatever offerings the family can afford. The residents of these areas serve the noble houses in various capacities, working as craftsmen, minor merchants, guards, or in the countless other roles that a city of 20,000 inhabitants requires. These commoner Drow understand their place in the hierarchy, knowing that they exist to serve the nobility and ultimately to serve Lolt herself. Menzoberranzan maintains several distinct districts, each serving specific functions within the city's ecosystem. Narbondel, a massive stone pillar rising from the cavern floor near the city's center, serves as the city's clock. An archmage from House Beaner travels to its base each day and casts a spell that causes heat to rise slowly up the pillar, the glowing warmth marking the passage of hours in a realm where day and night hold no meaning. The Drow measure time by watching Narbondel's glow, organizing their activities around this artificial cycle. The bazaar occupies a large open area where merchants from across the Underdark gather to trade goods. Here, Drow rub shoulders with Duergar merchants, deep gnome traders operating under safe conduct agreements, Illithid representatives seeking specific slaves or magical components, and even occasional surface dwellers who have somehow earned the right to enter the city. The bazaar operates under strict rules enforced by House Beaner soldiers, as any violence or disruption would reflect poorly on the first house's ability to maintain order. Merchants display their wares on floating platforms held aloft by permanent levitation spells, creating a three-dimensional marketplace where valuable goods occupy higher elevations, protected from casual theft. Tir Brech, the Academy District, dominates the western section of the city, built into a smaller side cavern connected to the main space. Here, 3 separate schools train young Drow in the skills necessary for survival and advancement in their ruthless society. Aractinolith, the school for priestesses, sits at the highest elevation, a massive structure carved from black stone that absorbs light rather than reflecting it. Only females may enter Aractinolith, where they learn the ways of Lolt, mastering divine magic and the political cunning necessary to lead noble houses. The training lasts decades, and many students do not survive, falling victim to the harsh discipline, the dangerous lessons, or the machinations of rival students. Below Aractinolith stands Sorcier, the Academy for Male Wizards, a tower that spirals upward in defiance of its lower status, as if reaching toward the prestige it can never quite achieve. Male Drow with magical aptitude study here, learning arcane arts under masters who have spent centuries perfecting their craft. The curriculum emphasizes practical magic, spells of destruction and domination that serve the houses in their constant struggles. The students learn that magic is a tool for advancement, that power comes to those who seize it, and that mercy is weakness. Melee Magther, the school for warriors, occupies the lowest position in Tir Brech, both literally and symbolically. Here, Drow learn the arts of combat, mastering the distinctive two-weapon fighting style that has become synonymous with their race. the students drill endlessly with scimitars and short swords, learning to strike with blinding speed and lethal precision. They study tactics and strategy, practice fighting in darkness and in the harsh glare of magical light, and undergo brutal tests that separate the competent from the exceptional. The males who graduate from Melee Magther serve as soldiers and guards for the noble houses, knowing they will never achieve true power, but content with the status that martial excellence provides. The noble houses maintain extensive underground fungal farms beneath their compounds, vast chambers where cultivated mushrooms and other fungi grow in carefully controlled conditions. These farms provide much of the city's food supply, producing edible fungi that the Drow harvest and prepare in countless ways. Some varieties produce fibers that the Drow weave into cloth, creating the distinctive Piwafwi cloaks that their warriors favor. Other fungi serve alchemical purposes. Their spores or caps ground into components for potions and poisons. Spider farms occupy some of the largest caverns beneath Menzoberranzan, where the Drow breed and raise the giant spiders that serve as mounts, guardians, and symbols of Lolt's favor. The Drow have developed dozens of spider varieties through selective breeding and magical enhancement, creating species that exist nowhere else in the Underdark. Riding spiders grow large enough to carry armored Drow warriors, their legs adapted for climbing the vertical surfaces that characterize Underdark terrain. Guardian spiders possess enhanced venom and heightened aggression, trained to attack any intruder who lacks the proper magical identification. Some houses maintain breeding programs that have continued for thousands of years, their bloodlines carefully documented and jealously guarded. Chednacid, the city of shimmering webs, once rivaled Menzoberranzan in size and power, built entirely within a massive vertical chasm that plunged into darkness far below. The Drow of Chednacid constructed their city on platforms of solidified spider silk, creating tiers of habitation that hung suspended above the void. Magical enchantments strengthened the silk beyond its natural resilience, allowing it to support entire buildings, marketplaces, and temple complexes. The city shimmered with magical light, reflecting off countless strands of spider silk, creating an effect that visitors described as simultaneously beautiful and deeply disturbing. The noble houses of Chednacid built their compounds on the highest platforms, where the chasm walls came closest together, providing natural protection and prestige. Lower platforms held merchant districts, residential areas, and the industrial facilities where crafters worked. The very lowest levels, where the chasm widened and darkness became absolute, served as prisons and disposal sites, places where the city threw its unwanted waste and enemies. Creatures adapted to extreme depths sometimes climbed up from below, forcing the Drow to maintain constant vigilance against incursions from beneath. The fall of Chednacid sent shockwaves through the entire Underdark. A combination of factors led to the catastrophe around 1372 Dale Reckoning, including a war between noble houses that escalated beyond all reason, possible interference from external forces, and the weakening of critical enchantments that held the spider silk platforms intact. When the platforms began to fail, the collapse cascaded through the entire city, each falling tier striking those below, until the whole magnificent structure tumbled into the darkness. Thousands of Drow died in moments, their screams echoing through the chasm as they fell. The survivors scattered across the Underdark, some seeking refuge in other Drow cities, others establishing small settlements in unclaimed territories, still others falling prey to the countless predators that patrol the dark passages. The ruins of Ched Nasid remain, heaped at the bottom of the chasm, a twisted mass of broken stone, shattered silk, and crushed bodies. Some Drow have attempted to reclaim the site, descending into the ruins to recover artifacts and magical items that survived the fall. These expeditions face numerous dangers, from the unstable nature of the ruins themselves to the creatures that now lair among the wreckage. Phase spiders have claimed sections of the ruins, using their ability to shift between the material plane and the ethereal plane to ambush intruders. Wraiths and shadows haunt the places where thousands died, feeding on the residual negative energy that permeates the site. Urendlin, the city of scattered coin, occupies a unique position in Drow society as a merchant city where noble houses hold less sway than wealthy trading consortiums. The city spreads across multiple interconnected caverns at different elevations, creating a three-dimensional marketplace that operates constantly. Drow merchants control trade routes extending across the Underdark, their caravans traveling under heavy guard, carrying goods from the Lower Dark's volcanic forges to the Upper Dark's surface-adjacent markets. Urendlin's position near several major Underdark thoroughfares makes it a natural trading hub, and the city's rulers have leveraged this advantage into substantial wealth and influence. The merchant princes of Urendlin maintain armed forces comparable to those of noble houses in other cities, hiring mercenaries and training house guards to protect their interests. Unlike Menzoberranzan, where religious and political power intertwine through the worship of Lult, Urendlin operates on more mercenary principles. The merchant princes pay homage to Lult, certainly maintaining temples and observing the required rituals, but their true devotion appears directed toward profit and the accumulation of wealth. This pragmatic approach attracts Drow who chafe under the rigid hierarchies of more traditional cities, creating a somewhat more flexible society where coin matters more than noble birth. Eldrinshar, known to surface scholars as the Pit of Gonador, represents the darkest aspects of Drow civilization. This city clings to the walls of an immense vertical shaft that descends into the Lower Dark, a place where the worship of Lult gives way to veneration of Gonador. that ancient god of oozes, slimes, and aberrations. The Drow of Eldrinshire practice rites that even other Drow find disturbing, offering sacrifices to their amorphous deity, cultivating oozes and jellies for purposes both religious and practical. The city exists on the fringes of Drow society, tolerated but never fully accepted. Its inhabitants viewed with suspicion, even by the ruthless standards of their race. The architecture of Eldrinshire reflects its unusual religious orientation. Rather than the clean lines and spider motifs common in other Drow cities, Eldrinshire features organic, flowing structures that seem to melt into one another. Buildings with surfaces that glisten wetly in the magical light, walls that pulse with sickening regularity. The temples to Gonador occupy the deepest sections of the city, built around natural pools of primordial ooze that the priests claim represent physical manifestations of their god. Based on accounts from visitors, the Drow of this city appear to have developed resistances to acids and toxins through generations of exposure, their bodies adapting to the caustic environment their deity demands. Smaller Drow settlements dot the Underdark, outposts, and minor cities that serve various purposes within the larger network of Dark Elf civilization. Some function as military bases, strongholds positioned along important trade routes, or near the borders of Illithid or Beholder territories. These fortress cities maintain large garrisons, their walls reinforced with powerful enchantments, their approach routes trapped and warded against intrusion. The soldiers stationed at these outposts rotate regularly, as extended service in isolated locations can fray even Drow discipline. Other settlements serve as waypoints for caravans traveling between major cities, offering safe rest and resupply in exchange for tolls and tribute. These waypoint cities develop unique cultures, influenced by the constant flow of travelers bringing news and goods from across the Underdark. The proprietors of rest houses and trading posts in these settlements maintain careful neutrality in the conflicts between noble houses, understanding that taking sides would destroy their business and likely cost their lives. Mining settlements cluster around rich veins of precious metals or gem deposits, their populations consisting mainly of slaves overseen by Drow taskmasters. The Drow extract enormous wealth from these operations, shipping raw materials to the craft centers in major cities, where master artisans transform them into finished goods. The conditions in these mining settlements are brutal. The slaves worked until they collapse, and then replaced with fresh captures from raids or purchases from slave markets. The Drow view this as simply efficient resource management, seeing no moral dimension to the suffering they inflict. The connection between Drow cities and Lold permeates every aspect of Dark Elf society. The Spider Queen demands constant worship and tribute, regular sacrifices that escalate during the festival of the founding. that commemoration of the Dark Elves' descent into the Underdark after their defeat in the Crown Wars. During these festivals, the noble houses compete to offer the most impressive sacrifices, hoping to gain Lolt's favor and perhaps receive signs of her blessing. The sacrifices might include valuable magic items thrown into the Demonweb pits, elaborate rituals lasting days, or the execution of high-ranking prisoners whose deaths will most please the capricious goddess. Lolt's influence manifests physically in Drow cities through the Yachlal, those handmaidens of the Spider Queen, who sometimes visit the material plane to deliver her commands or punish those who have failed her. The appearance of a Yachlal in a noble house sends ripples of terror and anticipation through the entire compound, as these demons possess the authority to execute matrons who have disappointed Lolt, or to elevate ambitious priestesses who have caught the goddess's attention. The Yachlal can assume various forms, appearing as beautiful Drow females, as melting columns of yellowish ooze, or as massive spiders whose eyes gleam with malevolent intelligence. The Drow measure status and power through service to Lolt, with the priestesses holding ultimate authority in religious matters, and by extension, in political matters as well. Male Drow, regardless of their arcane power or martial skill, can never achieve the highest positions in society, forever relegated to supporting roles. This enforced hierarchy creates constant tension, as ambitious males seek ways to gain influence without directly challenging the goddess-ordained structure. Some males become consorts to powerful priestesses, wielding indirect authority through these relationships. Others focus on magical research or martial excellence, becoming so valuable that houses cannot afford to discard them despite their gender. The Drow architectural achievement extends beyond mere buildings into the realm of strategic military engineering. Every major Drow city incorporates defensive features designed to repel sieges or invasions from rival cities or other Underdark powers. The approaches to these cities wind through trapped passages, where concealed murder holes allow defenders to attack invaders from multiple angles. False passages lead intruders into dead ends or trigger cave-ins that bury entire assault forces. Magical wards detect intruders and sound alarms, or simply kill them outright if they lack the proper tokens or passwords. The Drow have mastered the art of creating magical darkness, that absolute void that even dark vision cannot penetrate. They deploy this weapon strategically, using it to neutralize enemies who rely on sight, creating zones where only the Drow can operate effectively through their other senses, combined with silence spells that eliminate sound. These darkness zones become death traps for unprepared invaders, places where Drow warriors strike from concealment with their poisoned blades before vanishing back into the void. This network of Drow cities, from mighty Menzoberranzan to the smallest outpost, creates a civilization that has endured for thousands of years, in the hostile environment of the Underdark. Their success stems from ruthless pragmatism, absolute devotion to Lold, and willingness to embrace cruelty as a tool for advancement. The Dark Elves have transformed the Underdark into their empire, shaping it to serve their needs, and in the process, they have become one of the most feared races in all the realms. Section 3. Mind Flayer Colonies and the Elder Brain. The Mind Flayers move through the darkness with purpose that transcends individual will. You sense their presence before you see them, a psychic pressure building against your consciousness like water pressing against a dam, testing for weakness, searching for the crack that will allow entry. The Illithids represent one of the Underdark's greatest terrors, not because of physical might, though they possess considerable strength, but because they attack the mind itself, turning your own thoughts against you, transforming your identity into nothing more than a tool for their incomprehensible plans. Understanding the Illithids requires you to abandon surface concepts of individuality and personal identity. A mind flayer exists simultaneously as a distinct being and as part of a greater collective consciousness centered on the elder brain. From the moment of seramorphosis, that horrific transformation that turns humanoid captives into Illithids, the new mind flayer joins a psychic network that connects it to every other member of its colony. Thoughts flow between individuals without conscious effort. Experiences become shared property, and the boundaries between self and other blur into insignificance. The elder brain orchestrates this symphony of minds, directing the colony's actions toward goals that span decades or centuries. The process of seramorphosis haunts the nightmares of every sentient being who learns of it. The Illithids capture humanoid victims, preferring those with strong mental capabilities, but accepting any humanoid of appropriate size. They place a tadpole and a Illithid larva on the victim's face, and the creature burrows into the skull through the nasal cavity or ear canal. Over the course of approximately 7 days, the tadpole consumes the victim's brain, simultaneously restructuring the body to serve its needs. The host's memories remain partially intact, accessible to the emergent Illithid, but no longer belonging to a coherent self. What emerges from this transformation is no longer the original person, but a new entity wearing a familiar form, a mind flayer with access to the knowledge and skills of the consumed victim. The pools where elder brains float dominate the central chambers of Illithid colonies. Massive basins filled with brine solution, maintained at precise temperature and salinity. You approach such a pool with dread, knowing that the alien intelligence dwelling within it perceives you completely, understanding your thoughts even as you think them, reading your memories as easily as surface scholars read books. The elder brain appears as a massive brain tissue, easily 20 feet across. Its surface covered with pulsing veins and strange protrusions that might serve as sensory organs. The thing floats in its pool, occasionally releasing bubbles of psychic energy that manifest as ripples of colored light across its surface. An elder brain accumulates the knowledge and memories of every illithid in its colony that dies, and has its brain added to the communal mass. Over centuries or millennia, the elder brain grows in both size and mental capacity, becoming a repository of lore that spans generations. The oldest elder brains, based on illithid claims, remember events from before the fall of the Illithid Empire, retaining knowledge of magical techniques and psionic disciplines that have been lost to living mind flayers. They dream constantly, their thoughts processing millions of pieces of information simultaneously, planning strategies that account for contingencies decades in the future. The relationship between individual illithids and their elder brain resembles that between cells in a body and the brain that directs them. Yet, it remains more complex and nuanced. Mind flayers possess individual personalities and preferences, traits that emerge from the merger of tadpole instincts with host memories. Some illithids develop fascination with specific areas of study, becoming specialists in arcane magic, psionic combat techniques, or the breeding and training of thralls. The elder brain recognizes these tendencies and assigns roles accordingly, creating an efficient division of labor that maximizes colony productivity. Orindal stands as the greatest illithid city in the Underdark, a metropolis that houses multiple elder brains and thousands of mind flayers, making it a significant center of whatever remains of illithid civilization after the fall of their ancient empire. The city occupies a vast series of interconnected caverns deep in the Lower Dark, its exact location known to few non-illithids, and jealously guarded by those who do possess this knowledge. The mind flayers have shaped Orindal according to their architectural preferences, favoring rounded chambers and spiral passages that reflect their alien psychology. The structures in Orindal curve and flow in ways that seem organic rather than constructed, walls spiraling inward toward central points, ceilings domed and smooth, floors sloping gradually rather than meeting walls at right angles. The illithids illuminate their city with bioluminescent fungi that emit pale purple and blue light, creating an atmosphere that disorients surface visitors, making it difficult to judge distances or maintain sense of direction. The architecture serves practical purposes as well, the spiral designs making it easier for illithids to move through their city using levitation, allowing them to simply float along predetermined paths rather than walking. Orindal contains multiple elder brain pools, each serving as the nucleus for a distinct colony within the larger city structure. These colonies maintain their independence while cooperating on matters of mutual interest, creating a complex political landscape where alliances shift based on circumstances and long-term objectives. The elder brains communicate with each other through intermediaries, sending illithid ambassadors to negotiate agreements or resolve disputes. Occasionally, disagreements escalate into psionic combat between colonies, brief wars fought entirely in mental space, where physical damage remains minimal, but defeated minds become enslaved or destroyed. The mind Flayers maintain extensive thrall pens throughout their colonies, vast chambers where they house the humanoid servants who perform manual labor and serve as emergency food supplies. The thralls exist in a state of perpetual mental domination, their wills completely suppressed by illithid psionic power, their bodies moving according to telepathic commands. The illithids treat thralls as property, valuable resources that require maintenance but ultimately replaceable. A thrall might serve for years, performing repetitive tasks without complaint or resistance, until the illithids decide to consume its brain for sustenance, or the thrall dies from exhaustion or neglect. The thrall pens represent one of the Underdark's greatest horrors, not because of physical cruelty, though conditions remain harsh, but because of the absolute erasure of personal agency they represent. The thralls retain enough consciousness to understand their situation, to know that they have been robbed of free will, but they cannot resist or even express their anguish. They stand in perfect lines when not working, their faces blank, their eyes vacant, their bodies positioned exactly as their illithid masters commanded. Sometimes, in rare moments when the psionic control slips slightly, a thrall might twitch or shed a single tear, brief evidence of the person trapped inside the puppet. C.H. Chittle occupies caverns in the Upper Dark, beneath the Moonsea region, a smaller colony than Orendal, but no less dangerous to its neighbors. The illithids of C.H. Chittle have focused their efforts on infiltration and manipulation of surface societies, sending dominated agents into cities and towns to gather intelligence and prepare for potential future operations. These operations proceed slowly, as the illithids understand that rushing might expose their presence prematurely. They position their thralls in positions of minor authority, shopkeepers who overhear valuable conversations, tavern servers who learn travelers' plans, minor bureaucrats who can alter documents or delay investigations. The mind Flayers of C.H. Chittle have developed techniques for creating sleeper agents, individuals who appear free but carry embedded commands that activate under specific conditions. These sleeper agents might live normal lives for years, completely unaware of the illithid influence buried deep in their psyches, until they hear a trigger phrase or witness a predetermined signal. The buried commands then surface, overriding the person's normal behavior, compelling them to carry out missions ranging from simple information gathering to sabotage or assassination. After completing their tasks, the sleeper agents often retain no memory of what they've done, making it nearly impossible to trace the actions back to illithid influence. Lesser illithid colonies scatter throughout the Underdark, each consisting of an elder brain and anywhere from a few dozen to several hundred mined flayers. These smaller colonies typically operate with greater independence, pursuing specialized goals rather than contributing to larger strategic objectives. Some colonies focus entirely on magical research, their mined flayers studying spellcraft and attempting to recreate or improve upon the arcane achievements of their ancient empire. Others dedicate themselves to psionic development, pushing the boundaries of mental powers, occasionally achieving breakthroughs that they share with other colonies through carefully controlled information exchanges. Certain colonies specialize in specific types of thralls, breeding programs that span generations. The Illithids might capture members of physically powerful races like Goliaths or Minotaurs, then breed them selectively while dominating the offspring from birth. Over time, this could produce thralls with enhanced strength or endurance, better suited for heavy labor or combat roles. Other colonies focus on creating thralls with heightened magical potential, capturing wizards and sorcerers and breeding their descendants, hoping to develop thralls who can cast spells while under Illithid control. The Nautiloids represent the pinnacle of ancient Illithid engineering, those spell-jamming vessels that once allowed mined flayers to travel between worlds, spreading their empire across the cosmos. Most Nautiloids were destroyed in the catastrophic war that shattered Illithid power, but wreckage from these vessels lies scattered across the Underdark. The remains of ships that crashed during the Empire's fall. The Illithids guard these crash sites jealously, as the wreckage contains technology and magical artifacts that their civilization can no longer reproduce. You might stumble upon such a crash site in some forgotten corner of the Lower Dark, a massive shell-shaped hull half buried in collapsed stone. Its organic-looking surface fused with the surrounding rock. The interior passages remain intact in places, revealing chambers designed for purposes you cannot quite comprehend. Walls covered with strange symbols that pulse with residual magical energy. The Illithids have salvaged most valuable components long ago, but fragments remain, pieces of technology that hint at the vast power their empire once wielded. Some Nautiloids remain partially functional, their magical systems damaged but not completely destroyed. The Illithids conduct archaeological expeditions to these sites, sending their most skilled technicians to study the ancient systems and attempt repairs. A single restored Nautiloid would grant its colony enormous advantages, allowing them to travel vast distances instantly, to strike at enemies from unexpected directions, or potentially to return to the spaces between worlds that their ancestors once dominated. These repair efforts proceed slowly, as much of the knowledge required to understand the ancient technology has been lost, forcing the modern Illithids to work through trial and error. The breeding chambers where Illithid tadpoles develop occupy some of the most heavily guarded sections of mined flayer colonies. The elder brain spawns tadpoles regularly, releasing them into special pools where they swim in crowds of thousands, feeding on specialized nutrient solutions and occasionally on each other. Only a tiny fraction of these tadpoles ever undergo seromorphosis, as the elithids must carefully regulate their population to avoid overwhelming their thrall food supply. The unsuccessful tadpoles eventually die, their bodies added to the elder brain's pool, contributing their nascent psychic energy to the collective. The elithids have developed elaborate rituals around the selection of tadpoles for seromorphosis. Ceremonies that blend biological necessity with cultural tradition. The elder brain examines each tadpole psionically, assessing its potential, identifying those most likely to develop into powerful psionicists or skilled manipulators. The chosen tadpoles receive special feeding regimens to maximize their development, while the elder brain prepares suitable hosts for the transformation. The colony celebrates each successful seromorphosis as a birth, welcoming the new elithid into the collective consciousness with a burst of shared psychic experience. Mind flayers require regular consumption of brain tissue to survive, specifically the brains of sentient creatures whose mental energies provide sustenance that ordinary food cannot match. An elithid typically needs to consume one brain every few days, though they can survive longer periods without feeding if necessary, becoming progressively weaker and more desperate. The act of consuming a brain is not merely physical sustenance, but also a transfer of knowledge and experience. As the elithid absorbs the victim's memories and skills along with the neural tissue, the elithids have refined brain consumption into an art form, developing techniques to maximize both nutritional value and information extraction. They prefer to consume brains from living victims, as death causes immediate degradation of the psychic energies they require. The feeding process is horrifically intimate, the elithid wrapping its tentacles around the victim's head, each tentacle ending in a sucker-like orifice that draws brain matter through the skull. The victim remains conscious through most of the process, experiencing their own thoughts dissolving, their memories being read and consumed, their identity fragmenting and disappearing into the elithid's alien consciousness. Different humanoid races provide different qualities of sustenance to mind flayers. Human brains offer versatility, a balance of emotional complexity and analytical capability that makes them reliable food sources. Elf brains, particularly those of older elves, provide rich memories spanning centuries, making them prized delicacies that elithids reserve for special occasions. Dwarf brains offer strong connection to tradition and craft knowledge, while halfling brains provide unexpected depths of emotional experience that some elithids find fascinating. The elithids maintain detailed records of their feeding experiences, noting which races or individual victims provided the most satisfying sustenance. the military forces of Illithid colonies rely less on trained soldiers than on dominated thralls and magically controlled creatures. The Illithids breed and train specialized monsters to serve as shock troops and guardians, creating creatures that exist nowhere else in the Underdark. Intellect devourers, those brain-like creatures with clawed legs, serve as scouts and assassins, capable of removing and replacing victims' brains, allowing them to infiltrate enemy strongholds. Ustalagers, those massive lizard-like beasts covered in blade-like scales, guard important passages, attacking intruders with savage ferocity, enhanced by psychic conditioning. The Mind Flayers employ sophisticated magical defenses throughout their colonies, creating overlapping wards and detection systems that alert them to intrusions. Permanent Detect Thoughts spells monitor major thoroughfares, screening for hostile intent or surface memories that indicate potential threats. Dimensional locks prevent teleportation and planar travel in sensitive areas, forcing intruders to approach through controlled access points, where Illithid defenders wait in ambush. The colonies also deploy more subtle magical protections, enchantments that slowly erode mental resistance, making visitors progressively more susceptible to psionic domination the longer they remain within Illithid territory. The Illithids maintain extensive libraries in their major colonies, vast collections of knowledge accumulated over millennia. These libraries differ fundamentally from surface archives, as Illithid record-keeping relies primarily on psychic imprints rather than written texts. Information is stored in crystalline matrices that preserve thoughts and memories in their original form, allowing later researchers to experience the knowledge directly rather than interpreting written descriptions. An Illithid accessing such records experiences the information as if it were their own memory, perfect recall of events they never witnessed, complete understanding of concepts they never studied. The fall of the Illithid Empire remains a defining trauma in Mind Flayer consciousness, an event so catastrophic that even elder brains that did not exist at the time carry echoes of the devastation in their collective memories. According to Illithid accounts, the Empire spanned multiple worlds, thousands of colonies connected through nautiloid travel and psychic communion across vast distances. Then the Gith rose up, those slaves whom the Illithids had created through generations of breeding and domination, and they shattered everything. The war lasted decades by surface reckoning, but to the Illithids, connected through psychic networks, every battle was felt by every Mind Flayer simultaneously, making it seem as if the war consumed all time and space. The modern Illithids dream of restoration, of rebuilding their empire and reclaiming their position as a dominant intelligence in the cosmos. The Elder Brains coordinate efforts toward this goal, working patiently toward objectives that will not bear fruit for centuries. They infiltrate surface societies, establish hidden colonies in strategic locations, breed thrall armies in secret caverns, and search ceaselessly for the knowledge and technology that might allow them to recreate the achievements of their ancestors. The Illithids believe that time favors them, that their patience and mental superiority will eventually overcome all opposition, allowing them to once again spread their dominion across the stars. Section 4. Beholders, Aboleths, and Ancient Terrors. The beholder hangs motionless in the center of its lair, a sphere of flesh and malevolent intelligence covered with writhing eye stalks that never cease their vigilant scanning. You perceive the creature's xenophobic madness radiating outward like heat from a forge. Its paranoia so intense that it has shaped the very stone around it, transforming natural caverns into deadly mazes designed to destroy anything that dares approach. Each beholder believes itself to be the pinnacle of creation, the only true and perfect form of life, and everything else exists merely as a threat to be eliminated or a resource to be exploited. The beholder's central eye dominates its spherical body, a massive orb that produces an antimagic cone extending outward in whatever direction the creature faces. Within this cone, all magical effects cease to function. Spells unravel, enchanted items become mundane objects, and even magical creatures find their supernatural abilities suppressed. The beholder uses this ability with devastating tactical precision, directing the antimagic cone at spellcasters, while using its eye stalks to attack warriors and other threats. The 10 eye stalks surrounding the central eye each produce different magical rays, creating a floating artillery platform capable of engaging multiple enemies simultaneously with varied effects. A beholder's lair reflects its twisted psychology. Every passage and chamber designed according to paranoid logic that makes sense only to the creature itself. You enter such a lair through narrow tunnels that suddenly open into vast spherical chambers, the walls smooth and featureless, except for carefully positioned alcoves where the beholder's charmed or dominated servants hide, waiting to ambush intruders. The creature shapes its territory using its disintegration ray, carefully removing stone to create the precise geometry it desires, sometimes spending years perfecting a single chamber until it matches the beholder's exacting standards. Traps riddle every approach to a beholder's central lair, mechanisms both magical and mechanical that trigger in sequence, forcing intruders to dodge multiple threats simultaneously. The beholder might position falling blocks that crush victims while simultaneously releasing poisonous gases, or create corridors that suddenly tilt sideways, dumping intruders into pits filled with acid or magma. The creature monitors its domain constantly through scrying sensors and dominated servants, watching for intrusions, adjusting its defenses based on observed threats, growing ever more paranoid with each imagined conspiracy. The social structure of beholder society, to the extent such a thing exists, resembles a collection of solitary tyrants, each ruling their own tiny kingdom, while viewing all others with pathological suspicion. Beholders do not form communities or cooperate, except in the rarest circumstances. Usually when facing threats so severe that even their paranoia cannot deny the need for temporary alliance. These alliances never last, as each beholder constantly plots against its supposed allies, certain that they intend betrayal, usually because the beholder itself is planning exactly such betrayal and assumes others think identically. Beholders reproduce through dreaming, a process unique among intelligent creatures. When a beholder sleeps, it dreams of perfect versions of itself, idealized forms that correct whatever flaws the creature perceives in its own body. These dream beholders sometimes manifest as reality, appearing near the sleeping beholder as fully formed creatures. The dreamer immediately views these spawn as threats, recognizing them as competitors, and typically attacks them immediately upon waking. The spawn, possessing their creator's memories and knowledge, usually flee if they can, establishing their own lairs far from their progenitor. The variations among beholders boggle the mind, as each creature's unique paranoia and self-image create subtle or dramatic differences in appearance and abilities. Some beholders develop additional eye stalks, believing that more eyes mean greater perfection, while others lose eye stalks to injury or birth defects, compensating by developing more powerful versions of their remaining rays. The Death Tyrant represents an extreme expression of beholder paranoia, an undead beholder that achieved lichdom to escape death, transforming itself into a floating horror that combines the beholder's magical arsenal with the negative energy of undeath. Eye tyrants, the most common variety of beholder, establish lairs throughout the Underdark, claiming territories that they defend with obsessive violence. Each eye tyrant develops a unique personality, though all share the basic beholder traits of paranoia, xenophobia, and absolute certainty in their own superiority. Some eye tyrants become collectors, gathering magical items or exotic creatures, arranging them in their lairs according to incomprehensible organizational systems. Others focus on dominating nearby populations, building networks of charmed servants who worship the beholder as a god and carry out its increasingly bizarre commands. The Goth, a lesser variety of beholder, possesses only 6 eye stalks and significantly reduced magical power compared to true beholders. Eye tyrants view Goths with contempt, seeing them as inferior mockeries of true beholder perfection, and they hunt Goths relentlessly whenever they encounter them. The Goths survive through stealth and cunning, establishing lairs in marginal territories that eye tyrants consider beneath their notice, or serving more powerful creatures in exchange for protection from their larger cousins. Deep in the lower dark, in caverns where even the Drow fear to venture, the Aboleths maintain their ancient cities beneath underground seas and lakes. These fish-like beings predate most other intelligent races, claiming memories that stretch back before the gods shaped the current world. You approach an Aboleth city with trepidation, knowing that these creatures view all other beings as either servants or irrelevant, that they consider current civilization a temporary aberration that will eventually give way to their rightful dominion. The sunless sea stretches for hundreds of miles beneath the surface world, a vast body of water trapped in enormous caverns deep below Faerun. No sunlight has ever touched these waters. No moon has cast reflections on their surface, yet they teem with life, adapted to perpetual darkness. The Aboleths built their cities along the shores of the sunless sea, constructing buildings from a material that resembles coral or bone, organic structures that seem to have grown rather than been built. The architecture defies humanoid aesthetics, featuring angles that create optical illusions, proportions that seem wrong even when you cannot explain why, and surfaces covered with mucus that preserves the Aboleth's memories. The cities stand partially submerged, allowing the Aboleths to move between water and air as needed. The buildings rise from the lake floor like twisted fingers, their exteriors decorated with reliefs depicting events from eons past, wars between primordial beings, the rise and fall of empires that existed before elves or dwarves walked the world. The Aboleths update these carvings regularly, adding new historical events to the permanent record, ensuring that nothing is forgotten, even as ages pass. Within these cities, the Aboleths pursue goals that span centuries, manipulating surface and Underdark civilizations through carefully planted suggestions and dominated agents. An Aboleth might decide that a particular nation should fall, then spend decades positioning its thralls in key governmental positions, subtly steering policy toward decisions that will weaken the state. When the nation finally collapses, the Aboleth derives satisfaction not from the destruction itself, but from the demonstration of its superior planning and patience. Underground lakes throughout the Underdark provide homes for smaller Aboleth communities, creatures that operate independently but share the same long-term goals as their kin in larger cities. These Aboleths focus their attention on nearby settlements, sending dominated agents to gather information and establish influence networks. The agents establish themselves in local communities, gathering information and preparing infrastructure that the Aboleths might use in future operations. The Aboleth's mucus cloud serves multiple purposes, both weapon and archive. The creature constantly secretes a thick slime that clouds the water around it, and any creature touching this slime risks transformation, their skin becoming translucent and slimy, their lungs adapting to breathe water while losing the ability to process air. The Aboleth uses this transformation to create aquatic servants from land-dwelling victims, condemning them to existence in the underwater cities or drowning if they cannot reach water quickly enough. The mucus also preserves the aboleth's memories, each layer of slime containing psychic imprints of everything the creature has experienced, creating a biological archive that other aboleths can read by consuming or examining the mucus. Aboleths reproduce rarely, as their immortality makes population growth unnecessary. When an aboleth does spawn, it releases eggs that develop slowly over the course of years, eventually hatching into juvenile aboleths that possess instinctive knowledge inherited from their parent. These juveniles begin their existence already aware of the ancient history their species remembers, already convinced of their superiority to younger races, already plotting long-term schemes appropriate to their extended lifespans. The aboleth's greatest weapon remains its psionic power, the ability to dominate minds and create permanent thralls who serve willingly. Convinced that the aboleth's goals align with their own interests, an aboleth might dominate a surface merchant, then release the domination, but leave behind subtle suggestions that influence the merchant's business decisions. Years later, when those decisions create consequences beneficial to the aboleth's plans, the merchant never realizes they were manipulated, attributing their actions to their own judgment. The pit of Gonador, that vertical chasm where LD Drinshar clings to the walls, descends into darkness that predates the current world. At the bottom of this pit, miles below the Drow city, lies a temple to Gonador that existed before the Dark Elves discovered the location. The temple consists of natural caverns modified by unknown builders, its walls running with perpetual slime, its chambers filled with pools of ooze that move with disturbing purposefulness. The priests who worship here claim to hear Gonador's voice speaking directly from the ooze, commanding them to spread chaos and decay throughout the Underdark. The temple attracts various species of oozes, jellies, and slimes, creatures drawn to the divine presence that permeates the location. Black puddings flow through the corridors, their acidic bodies dissolving anything organic they encounter. Gelatinous cubes patrol certain chambers, their transparent forms nearly invisible in the dim light, catching unwary explorers and slowly digesting them while keeping them alive and conscious to experience their dissolution. The priests cultivate particularly dangerous specimens, breeding them for size and virulence, then releasing them into the Underdark to spread their god's influence. Gonador himself remains one of the oldest and most alien deities, a god of ooze and corruption who predates the current pantheon. The entity cares nothing for worship in the conventional sense, seeking instead to reduce all solid matter to primordial slime, to return the world to the state it existed in before the gods imposed order. The priests who serve Gonador rarely survive long, as their god's blessings tend toward mutation and transformation, gradually converting them into ooze-like beings that eventually lose all trace of their original forms. The Farim, those terrifying spellcasters shaped like elongated cones, with multiple arms and powerful magic, once dominated vast territories in the Underdark. Their warrens extending for miles beneath Anarok and the surrounding regions. These creatures represent magic in its most destructive form. Each Farim capable of casting spells that rival archmages, while also possessing natural magical resistance that makes them nearly immune to magical attack. They float through the air using innate levitation, their movements graceful despite their alien form, their four arms gesturing constantly as they weave spells of devastating power. The Farim created the Anarok Desert through magical catastrophe, draining the life from a once fertile region to fuel their magical experiments. This act of environmental destruction on a continental scale demonstrates the threat these creatures pose when allowed to operate unchecked. The elves and other surface races eventually imprisoned the Farim beneath magical barriers, trapping them in their Underdark warrens. But the creatures continue their magical research and their breeding programs, patient in their captivity, waiting for the wards to fail or for some fool to release them. A Farim warren consists of spherical chambers connected by twisting passages, all maintained at precise temperatures and humidity levels through constant magical climate control. The creatures organize their spaces according to function, dedicating certain chambers to spell research, others to breeding pools where they reproduce asexually, and still others to storage of magical components and captured artifacts. The warrens extend vertically as much as horizontally, utilizing three-dimensional space in ways that walking creatures find difficult to navigate. The Farim view other intelligent beings as resources, sources of magical energy to be harvested or experimental subjects for testing new spells. They capture victims and subject them to magical alterations, testing the limits of transmutation, studying the effects of extended exposure to different energy types, or simply using them as targets for destructive spells. The creatures maintain detailed records of these experiments, their magical archives containing knowledge of spellcraft that would revolutionize surface magic if it could be accessed safely. Scattered throughout the deepest regions of the Underdark stand temples to forgotten gods, deities whose worship has ceased or whose followers have dwindled to insignificance. These temples remain as monuments to vanished civilizations, their altars still emanating divine power, even though none come to worship anymore. You might discover such a temple in a remote cavern, its entrance hidden behind rock falls or deliberate concealment, its interior preserved perfectly by divine magic that has maintained it through millennia of abandonment. The architecture of these ancient temples varies wildly depending on which deity they honored and which culture built them. Some feature soaring chambers supported by pillars carved with prayers in languages no living being can read. Others consist of labyrinthine passages designed for processions and rituals whose purposes have been forgotten. The altars themselves often retain magical properties, responding to offerings or prayers, even though the gods they served may have died or moved beyond mortal concerns. Certain temples contain libraries or archives, collections of religious texts and historical records that could illuminate periods of history about which current scholars know nothing. These archives suffer from the passage of time, ancient paper crumbling to dust at the slightest touch, stone tablets eroded by moisture and geological shifts. Some temples employed magical preservation techniques that kept their records intact, creating time capsules that offer glimpses into vanished civilizations. The creatures that lair in abandoned temples range from opportunistic scavengers to entities with genuine connections to the dead gods. Undead frequently haunt these places, the restless spirits of priests who died defending their temples or maintaining their devotions until the very end. These undead might attack intruders reflexively, or they might welcome visitors, desperate for someone to hear about their god's glory, to understand what has been lost. Some temples house more exotic guardians, constructs, or summoned beings whose binding spells remain active, compelling them to protect the sacred space despite lacking worshippers to defend. The deeper regions of the Underdark hide terrors beyond conventional categorization, unique entities that exist nowhere else. Beings of such power or alienness that they defy understanding. You might encounter crystalline life forms that think in geometric patterns, incomprehensible to organic minds, or colonies of psychic fungi that have achieved collective consciousness and now plot against the younger races from their hidden groves. The Underdark provides sanctuary for things that the surface world rejected or forgot, creating pockets of impossible life in the eternal darkness. Section 5. Sverfnablin Duergar and the Hidden Ecosystems. The deep gnomes move through stone as if it were their natural element, their compact bodies perfectly adapted to navigating the narrow passages and low-ceilinged chambers they prefer. You observe the Sverfnablin with respect tinged by sadness, recognizing in them a people who have survived in the Underdark, not through domination or terror, but through resilience, cunning, and an unshakable bond with the stone itself. Where Drow impose their will through cruelty and Illithids through mental domination, the deep gnomes endure by blending into their environment, becoming part of the Underdark rather than trying to conquer it. Blingden Stone once stood as the greatest Sverfnablin city in the Underdark, a marvel of mining and engineering that transformed raw caverns into a functional, beautiful community. The city occupied a complex of natural caves in the Upper Dark, beneath the Silver Marches, approximately 2 miles below the surface, positioning it far enough from surface interference, but not so deep that it attracted constant attention from lower dark predators. The deep gnomes carved their homes directly from the stone, creating dwellings that appeared to grow organically from the cavern walls. Smooth and rounded, rather than angular, comfortable and practical, rather than ostentatious. The architecture of Blingdenstone reflected Sverfneblin values, emphasizing functionality and harmony with natural stone rather than aggressive reshaping of the environment. The deep gnomes carved their buildings to follow the natural grain of the rock, working with the stone's inherent properties rather than against them. They created homes that stayed naturally cool, that channeled water away from living spaces during periods when underground rivers swelled, that provided multiple escape routes in case of attack. Every building served a purpose beyond mere shelter, incorporating workshops, storage areas, and defensive positions into its design. The city organized itself around gem mining and stone crafting, industries that the Sverfneblin had perfected over countless generations. The deep gnomes possessed an intuitive understanding of stone that bordered on supernatural, allowing them to locate gem deposits by touch, to identify the composition of rock samples with a glance, to predict where veins of precious metals would run based on surface indicators that other races could not even perceive. Their miners worked with reverence, treating the stone as a living thing that deserved respect, offering prayers before removing gems or ore, thanking the earth for its bounty. The crafters of Blingdenstone created works of stunning beauty from the materials their miners extracted, shaping rubies into perfect spheres that captured light and held it, crafting jewelry that incorporated natural crystal formations into designs that enhanced rather than obscured the stone's inherent beauty. They worked diamonds into practical items, creating tools and weapons that utilized the gem's hardness to create cutting edges that never dulled. Surface merchants who managed to establish trade relationships with Blingdenstone paid fortunes for Sverfneblin craftswork, recognizing quality that surpassed even dwarven smithing in certain specialized areas. The fall of Blingdenstone came in 1371 Dale Reckoning, orchestrated by the Drow of Menzoberranzan as part of their territorial expansion and the acquisition of slaves. The Dark Elves attacked from multiple directions simultaneously, their forces enhanced by magical darkness and silence that negated the deep gnomes' defensive advantages. The Sverfneblin fought desperately, their illusion magic and knowledge of their cities' layout allowing them to mount effective resistance for days. But the Drow possessed superior numbers and magical power. House Beaner led the assault personally, committing resources that demonstrated how seriously they took the threat of organized Sverfneblin resistance. The survivors of Blingdenstone's fall scattered across the Underdark, some fleeing to allied deep gnome communities, others seeking refuge in surface cities, still others attempting to survive as nomads in the hostile darkness. Many were captured and enslaved, forced to serve in Drow households, or sold to other Underdark powers. The city itself stood empty for years, its halls silent, its forges cold, its gem mines abandoned. In recent years, some deep gnomes have attempted to reclaim Blingdenstone, returning to their ancestral home to rebuild what was lost. These pioneers face enormous challenges, clearing rubble, repairing damaged infrastructure, and defending against the various creatures that have claimed sections of the abandoned city as lairs. Other Sverfneblin communities exist throughout the Underdark, smaller settlements that have avoided the attention that doomed Blingdenstone. These communities maintain low profiles, using illusion magic to disguise their entrances as worthless dead-end passages or unstable chambers on the verge of collapse. The deep gnomes trade cautiously with other races, establishing relationships with Drow merchants they have vetted over decades, with Duergar traders whose greed outweighs their hostility, with the occasional surface dwarf clan that has maintained friendly relations through generations. The Sverfneblin's social structure emphasizes community over individual achievement, cooperation over competition. Leadership positions go to those who demonstrate wisdom and dedication to the community's welfare rather than to the most powerful or ambitious. Elder councils make decisions affecting the entire settlement, seeking consensus rather than imposing majority rule. This approach creates stable, harmonious communities, but also makes deep gnomes vulnerable to more aggressive neighbors who interpret cooperation as weakness. Deep gnome culture revolves around mining and stonework, with religious practices that venerate earth deities and emphasize respect for the natural world. They worship Kalarjuran's Smooth Hands, a deity of mining and stone, who teaches that gems and metals are gifts from the earth to be harvested with gratitude and used wisely. Their religious ceremonies often occur in natural caverns that the Sverfneblin consider sacred, spaces where the stone exhibits particularly beautiful formations, or where underground springs create places of unusual beauty. The Duergar represent the dark reflection of dwarven virtues, gray dwarves who have adapted to Underdark existence by embracing cruelty, slavery, and ruthless pragmatism. You approach Duergar territories with caution, knowing that these grim warriors view outsiders as either threats to be eliminated or resources to be exploited. The Grey Dwarves maintain grudges that span centuries, never forgetting an insult, never forgiving a wrong, accumulating reasons for warfare and vengeance that they pass down through generations. Gracklstugh, the City of Blades, stands as the greatest Duergar stronghold, a fortress city built in a massive cavern heated by volcanic activity that keeps forges burning constantly. The city sprawls across multiple levels carved into the cavern walls, connected by broad ramps designed to accommodate heavy equipment and large work crews. The architecture emphasizes functionality over aesthetics. Buildings constructed from dark stone with minimal decoration. Streets laid out in efficient grids that facilitate movement of goods and troops. The forges of Gracklstugh produce weapons and armor of exceptional quality. items crafted by master smiths who have spent centuries perfecting their techniques. The Duergar work primarily in iron and steel, creating blades that hold edges through extended combat, armor that turns aside blows that would pierce lesser protection. They also craft items from more exotic materials, Underdark metals with properties that surface smiths cannot duplicate. Duergar merchants trade these weapons throughout the Underdark, supplying Drow houses, illithid colonies, and anyone else willing to pay their prices. The social structure of Gracklstugh revolves around clan affiliation and profession, with the most prestigious clans controlling the largest forges and the most profitable trade routes. The ruling council consists of clan leaders who compete constantly for advantage, their rivalries creating a political landscape nearly as treacherous as that of Drow cities, though conducted with more restraint and less outright violence. Duergar value strength and productivity, measuring status by one's contributions to the clan's wealth and military power. Slavery forms the foundation of Duergar economy, with captured prisoners forced to work in the deepest mines and the hottest forges, performing the most dangerous and exhausting labor. The Grey Dwarves show no mercy to their slaves, working them until they collapse, and then replacing them with fresh captures. They justify this cruelty through religious beliefs that emphasize strength and the natural order of dominance, teaching that the weak exist to serve the strong, that slavery represents not injustice, but the proper functioning of a rational society. The Duergar possess natural magical abilities that set them apart from their surface cousins, including the power to turn invisible and to expand their size to giant proportions. These abilities provide significant tactical advantages in combat, allowing Duergar warriors to appear from nowhere, strike devastating blows while enlarged, then vanish before enemies can mount effective counterattacks. The Grey Dwarves train extensively to coordinate these abilities, developing combat techniques that surface armies cannot easily counter. Smaller Duergar settlements dot the Underdark beneath various surface regions, outposts that serve as mining operations, military bases, or trading posts. These communities maintain the same grim efficiency as Gracklstugh, their populations focused entirely on whatever function the settlement serves. A mining outpost might consist of nothing but barracks, forges, and slave pens, with minimal infrastructure beyond what directly supports resource extraction. The Duergar who staff these outposts rotate regularly, as even they find extended isolation in these austere conditions demoralizing. The relationship between Duergar and other Underdark races remains complex and largely adversarial. The Grey Dwarves despise the Drow, but trade with them regularly, their greed overcoming their hatred when profitable opportunities arise. They view deep gnomes with contempt, seeing them as weak creatures unworthy of the stone they inhabit. They occasionally ally with mind Flayers when mutual interests align, though both sides maintain watchful suspicion throughout such partnerships. The Duergar reserve their deepest hatred for surface dwarves, viewing them as soft and corrupt, failures who abandoned the strength necessary for Underdark survival. Hook horrors stalk the passages between settlements. These bizarre creatures, combining bird-like heads with heavily armored bodies and massive hooked claws that serve as both weapons and climbing tools. You hear them before you see them. The clicking communication they use to coordinate pack hunts echoing through stone passages, creating disorienting patterns that make it difficult to determine how many creatures you face or which direction they approach from. Hook horrors hunt cooperatively, surrounding prey and attacking from multiple angles, using their climbing abilities to assault from walls and ceilings where victims cannot easily defend themselves. Hook horror territories exhibit distinctive characteristics. Walls scarred by countless claw marks where generations of these creatures have climbed. Floors littered with bones from previous meals, and the peculiar smell of their nesting materials. The creatures are not particularly intelligent, but they possess animal cunning and the instincts of successful predators. They defend their territory aggressively, attacking any creature that enters their claimed passages, viewing all other beings as either prey or competitors. Some Underdark denizens have learned to coexist with hook horrors, establishing relationships based on mutual avoidance rather than direct conflict. The creatures follow predictable patterns, hunting at specific times and avoiding certain areas where they have learned danger waits. Experienced Underdark travelers learn to read hook horror sign, identifying which passages the creatures actively patrol and which they visit only occasionally, timing their movements to avoid encounters. Purple worms create a different kind of danger. These massive creatures burrowing through solid rock and leaving behind tunnels that later serve as highways for smaller beings. You feel a purple worm's approach long before you see it, vibrations traveling through the stone, a rhythmic pounding that builds in intensity as the creature nears. The worms grow to enormous size, some exceeding 80 feet in length and 15 feet in diameter, their bodies covered with thick purple hide that resists most weapons, their mouths ringed with teeth designed to grind through rock. The tunnels that purple worms create vary in size, depending on the individual creature, but they typically measure between 10 and 15 feet in diameter, large enough to accommodate most humanoid traffic. These tunnels become major thoroughfares in the Underdark, connecting regions that would otherwise remain isolated, creating shortcuts through otherwise impassable terrain. Drow patrols regularly use purple worm tunnels, as do Duergar merchants and the countless other beings that travel through the eternal darkness. Purple worms do not intentionally create infrastructure. They burrow in search of food, consuming vast quantities of rock and extracting nutrients from minerals. And the occasional creature, unfortunate enough to be in their path, the worms remain constantly hungry, their enormous bodies requiring continuous sustenance. They can sense vibrations through stone, detecting potential prey from considerable distances, then altering their course to intercept it. Being swallowed by a purple worm represents one of the worst fates imaginable, as victims remain conscious while the creature's powerful stomach acids dissolve them, a process that can take hours of unimaginable agony. Myconid colonies occupy some of the Underdark's strangest territories. Groves where massive fungi tower dozens of feet high, their caps glowing with soft, bioluminescent light that creates an otherworldly atmosphere. You enter such a grove with wonder mixed with caution, as the Myconids are peaceful beings who prefer diplomacy to violence. But their fungal nature makes them fundamentally alien to humanoid thinking. The Myconids communicate through spore clouds, releasing specialized spores that create telepathic links between individuals, allowing them to share thoughts and emotions without speaking. The grove itself functions as a community space, with Myconids of various sizes tending to the fungal gardens that provide their food and building materials. Smaller Myconids, the sprouts and adults, perform most labor harvesting edible fungi, cultivating medicinal spores, and maintaining the grove's borders. Larger Myconids, the elders and sovereigns, provide leadership and make decisions affecting the entire colony. The oldest Myconids sometimes grow to immense sizes, their caps spanning 20 feet across, their bodies rooted in place, having become immobile, but gaining wisdom that younger Myconids seek through spore communion. Myconids view conflict as wasteful and destructive, preferring to resolve disputes through patient negotiation and compromise. They welcome travelers who approach peacefully, offering shelter and food in exchange for news from other regions of the Underdark. The Myconids create a rapport spore that allows humanoids to join their telepathic communication network temporarily, facilitating true understanding that transcends language barriers. Conversing with Myconids through rapport spores provides unique insights, as they think in concepts and emotions rather than words, their thoughts flavored by their fungal nature. The Myconids maintain relationships with other Underdark creatures, forming symbiotic partnerships that benefit both parties. They cultivate shriekers, those ambulatory fungi that release piercing screams when they detect movement, using them as an alarm system around their groves. They sometimes domesticate violet fungi, training these dangerous plants to guard specific locations or attack designated threats. The Myconids understand fungal life in ways that no humanoid scholar can match, knowing instinctively which species serve which purposes, how to encourage growth or inhibit spreading, which fungi provide food, and which produce deadly poisons. The interconnected ecology of the Underdark creates relationships of predation and symbiosis that span the entire realm. You begin to recognize patterns as you spend more time in the darkness, understanding that nothing exists in isolation, that every creature and plant connects to larger systems. The fungi that provide food for herbivorous creatures also decompose organic waste, recycling nutrients that support new growth. The predators that hunt these herbivores control populations, preventing overgrazing that would devastate fungal forests. The scavengers that feed on carrion and waste complete the cycle, breaking down remains that return to the soil. Water systems connect distant regions, underground rivers flowing for hundreds of miles before surfacing briefly, then diving back into stone. Creatures migrate along these waterways, following seasonal changes in water level or responding to instinctive patterns passed down through generations. Fish adapted to total darkness swim in underground lakes, their bodies transparent or bioluminescent, their eyes either absent or developed in ways surface scholars struggle to comprehend. Amphibians breed in cave pools, then venture into dry passages, creating population pressures that influence which creatures can survive in which territories. The magical energy that permeates certain regions, particularly the Flayers, creates zones of mutation and transformation that constantly generate new species or subspecies. Creatures exposed to this radiation over generations develop abilities that their ancestors lacked, creating populations that drift genetically away from their original forms. This could imply that many Underdark creatures originated as surface species that adapted to subterranean conditions, enhanced by magical mutation. Though proving this would require evidence that has long since disappeared. The Underdark supports surprising biodiversity, considering its extreme conditions, with scholars estimating tens of thousands of distinct species inhabit various niches throughout the realm. Many of these remain unknown to surface scholars, living in isolated pockets or deep regions that see few visitors. New discoveries occur regularly as explorers venture into previously unmapped territories and encounter creatures that defy existing biological classifications. The balance between different Underdark powers remains constantly in flux, with Drow expansion pushing against illithid interests, while Beholder xenophobia creates buffer zones between territories, and a Boleth manipulation influences events from behind the scenes. The Deep Gnomes and Duergar pursue their own agendas, taking advantage of conflicts between major powers to advance their positions. Smaller species survive in the spaces between these empires, adapting quickly to changing circumstances, migrating when necessary, forming unexpected alliances when survival demands it. You now understand that the Underdark represents more than simple caves beneath the surface world, that it contains entire civilizations with histories spanning millennia, ecosystems as complex as any surface environment, and mysteries that remain unsolved despite centuries of exploration. The whispers from these Forgotten Lairs speak of ancient powers, of creatures that should not exist, of civilizations that rose and fell before surface races achieved literacy. The darkness holds these secrets close, revealing them only to those brave or foolish enough to venture into depths where light has never reached, and where the stone itself remembers events from the dawn of the world. If you found this journey through the Underdark's Forgotten Lairs enlightening, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the lore that shapes our favorite worlds. Share your own Underdark experiences or theories in the comments below, as the community's insights often reveal connections and details that deserve further exploration. Until next time, may your torches burn bright and your passage through the darkness remain safe.